Hey everybody, can I have your attention real quick? Hey, my name's Raiden Washington. Thank you so much for coming. I'm super excited to see everybody. We do have pizza coming, so it's running a little bit late. Once it gets delivered, we'll take a break so everyone can get lunch. I know a few of you have dietary restrictions. We only have 4 salads, so if you can't eat gluten and you can't eat cheese, those are who the 4 salads are for. If you RSVP late, we might not have enough pizza for you. So please, if you just RSVP, let everyone else get their food first. But if there are enough pizza left over, we'd love for everyone to get one. Let's just make sure the salad eaters can get their salad because we do have people that can't eat the pizza. Sweet, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Hopefully everyone on Zoom can hear me. Jeremy's getting people signed in over here, so if you haven't already checked in with him, please just make sure that we can mark that you're here or RSVP if you haven't already. Hopefully everyone on Zoom can see our slides as well. All right, y'all, I'm gonna take this off so you can hear me better. Once again, my name's Raiden. Thank you so much for coming. I'm the chapter leader of SSDP at UGA. We're Students for Sensible Drug Policy, basically trying to make sure that we can help people out not getting arrested for dumb stuff because some drugs are legal, some aren't. As I'm sure you know, Big Pharma makes a lot of money off of drugs. So it's kind of dumb that we draw these distinctions when it's possible that they can help everybody. But today we are meeting to talk about cannabis. So thanks for coming to our 420 forum. As I said, I'm with SSDP. I have another one of our executive members, Robin, here. Yeah, she's our marketing chair. And we also have our wonderful panelists from Franny's Farmacy. I think I have a slide for everyone. There we go. Over here to my far left, we have Pocket, my main man. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
My name is James Gabriel, or everybody calls me Pocket. I'm a professional artist and a bud tender, cannabis consultant with Franny's Pharmacy here in Athens. We are a full service, full spectrum, full service hemp dispensary. And I'm proud to be here today. Thank you everybody for attending.
And my name is Erin Jimenez. I do marketing and community liaison specialist at Franny's Pharmacy, and I couldn't have summed up better what we do. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you everybody for being here.
Yes, thank you guys so much for being here. So basically, I just wanted to give you a quick introduction to who we are at SSDP. Our UGA chapter is based here at the university. We're open to all students, whether you're an undergraduate, a graduate student, a law student. We're also open to members of the community. And I think that's really important because, as you can see right here, our goals are to take a holistic approach to ending the war on drugs. The war on drugs affects all of us, whether you know it or not, whether you are a drug user, whether you know someone that is a drug user, actively infringing on our rights that shouldn't have been taken away in the first place. So we're trying to undo all of that. We're also trying to address injustice in the criminal justice system and in mass incarceration. I don't know if you guys are aware, but 2.5 billion people were incarcerated last year. Over half of those charges were drug charges. So this is the big boy that's getting people locked up behind bars, why they're sleeping on cement floors, why their entire lives are ruined and they can't get jobs. They end up going back into the cycle of crime and for lack of better alternatives to try to find a way to make ends meet. I just saw this crazy statistic on TikTok that I want to share with you real quick, and I apologize in advance, I speak in TikToks. So back in the Great Depression during the 1930s, I don't know if you guys are aware, but with inflation, minimum wage was about $381 per week. Right now, current day, present time, 2022, minimum wage gets you paid about $275 per week. The difference being back in the 1930s, you could buy a house for $3,900. And guess what the median price for a house is right now? About $300,000. So minimum wage hasn't gone up, living expenses have. People are desperate, so they end up turning to drugs and crime, and we just want to help people meet them where they're at. Another thing we want to address is health and disparities and having access to medicinal resources. There's a lot of studies out there, a lot of empirical studies that have shown different illicit drugs that are targeted by the DEA, by the federal government, by state governments, actually have medicinal benefits that have been scientifically and empirically proven. So we want to help people that are battling with PTSD. We want to help people that are battling with depression, with chronic pain. And a lot of these street drugs can do that, and they can do it safely. But ultimately, people don't have the resources that they need to use drugs in the most harm-reduced way. So we want to make sure we're empowering people with the resources they need to be able to help themselves out, and ultimately not get in trouble for it, right? We're allowed to take all kinds of drugs, as I said. Only certain ones are illegal, and we want to talk about that. Also, I'm an Afro-Indigenous person. My ancestors were some of the Chickasha people that lived right here in Athens before they were displaced by the university. And I just want to share that because it's like another difference in how you look can determine how your entire life goes. I could have easily have been old money and been sitting here with like one of my names on the walls in this law school, right? But I wasn't because of how our society is set up. And unfortunately, a lot of the crimes around drugs are racially based. Cannabis that we're talking about today was turned into marijuana during the war on drugs era with Reagan. He wanted to racialize it. He wanted it to sound like it's something that you buy from Black people. It's something that you buy from Mexican people. It was very much a lot of the same rhetoric that we're talking about today to divide us all. And ultimately, it doesn't really make sense when you think about how we're all struggling to make ends meet, whether you're an attorney that's making 6 figures or whether you're an attorney that's like barely above the minimum wage or low income stratosphere of the spectrum. We're all fighting over like 1% of the funds in the world, right? Regardless of where you're at in the really rich, really poor spectrum. And a lot of that has to do with racial background, unfortunately, but it also goes into economic background. So my point in bringing that up is Indigenous cultures here in America and across the country have historically used drugs in a very safe, addiction-free, spiritual way. And I want to bring education to that and awareness to that so we can all know that there was a history behind drugs before they were all policed and criticized and ended up marginalizing people through the law and through policy. And all of that ends in removing social stigma around drug use. I personally know a lot of people that have died from drug overdoses. I'm sure drug overdoses might have touched your life in some way, shape, or fashion, whether that was like a celebrity you might know. Mac Miller, Whitney Houston, Juice WRLD are some examples that come to mind. It might be someone in your family. But people are really scared to ask for help because it's a touchy subject, right? It makes everybody uncomfortable. None of us really want to talk about it. Ultimately, this prohibition era that we're in isn't saving anyone. The war on drugs, criminalizing them, prosecuting people for it, turning people away from the help that they need when they have addiction problems, is ultimately killing people. It's not reducing the rates of use. It's not reducing the rates of death. It is driving up the amount of people we have in private prisons and making a lot of money off of them. And I don't know if you guys seen 13th on Netflix, awesome documentary, you should check it out. If you're unaware, the criminal justice system, our imprisonment system is currently modern day legal slavery. We're allowed to use those people for unpaid or very low paid labor, where they're working just as hard as people were back at the beginning of our institutions as a country. And I think we're pretty much all on the same page of that was a goal, right? So like, why are we justifying it now just because someone ended up getting caught with a little bit of weed that happened to be like in dab form and concentrate form? Now they're in jail because that's not decriminalized, but like the herb bud weed is. And now they're not working livable wage, they're stuck in the imprisonment system, so on and so forth. So not to get too deep into it, but like those are some of the systemic issues we wanted to address. Sorry, go ahead, Robin.
Oh, I can share a little bit if you want to talk about like, you know, somebody's experience, like in graduating.
If you'd like to.
Yeah, I am one of the people that the war on drugs has drastically changed their life. I'm sure you don't look at me and think that I'm some big criminal, but I actually have 7 felonies and 9 drug charges, and that they're all non-violent. I was just pulled over on the side of the road one day because I had an expired tag and I had my meds that I used to self-medicate, and I had them in my car. You know, I wasn't thinking that I was such a big criminal, so I didn't really have them hidden or anywhere. And, you know, lo and behold, I got thrown in a concrete cell with people who were charged for murder. I was in jail with $50,000 bond for the racetrack murder that happened in Watkinsville, and my bond was set at $20,000. So why is like, why is my bond almost as much? Like, why is my bond comparable to a murder charge for plants and mushrooms? I got a $4,000 bond for possession of mushrooms, and it happens every 35 seconds. So since we have been talking here, since Raiden has shared what they have to say, and since we've kind of started this, 22 people have been arrested now in the United States. So this isn't a small problem. People who are arrested for drugs, they are the population that takes up the most space in prison. So out of everybody who's, robbery or arson or rape or murder, we see the most people are incarcerated for drugs. Yeah, there were just some things about when you get arrested. You don't have the right to find a lawyer. You don't have the right to your phone to call a lawyer. You don't have the right to your bank account or your cash. They seize your assets. So you don't have the right to pay for a lawyer, but they say that, you do have a right to an attorney. But you don't have the right to talk to one. You just have the right to one. So anybody who uses plants for their medicine, I would seriously recommend to find a drug crime lawyer and memorize their phone number, because when you do get that one phone call in jail, use that one phone call to call up the lawyer, because you don't have another chance. Nobody knows where you are. You can't just tell anybody that you're in jail. You can't just tell your parents. You can't just tell your teachers. Everything you get, your car taken away, and a civil asset forfeiture, in which 82% of civil asset forfeiture cases result in no charges being filed. So 82% of those people end up being innocent, but their cars are legally stolen and then auctioned off very cheaply to the policeman that stole your car. So if you ever see a policeman driving around, a really nice car, it might be one of y'all cars. If it happens to you, because it can happen to anybody. So that's we're really here. Where we say that we're here to stop people's lives from being changed permanently and irreversibly from drugs. It's not something tiny. It's not something small. It's something being treated on a scale akin to murder. So it's not small. So it's really, really serious.
Thank you for sharing, Robin. So a few different ways we want to talk about this conversation and get it into the popular rhetoric of everyone being involved. Obviously, drug policy isn't like the big buzzword at this law school, right? I'm hoping that we can change that together, since it impacts the criminal justice system that we're all going to be working in so heavily. And ultimately, whether you're working in intellectual property law or corporate law or whatever, we can all still make an impact together, and we can all make differences and changes wherever we're at in like our verticals in the law. In a general sense, how we want to implement what we talked about a little while ago as far as those different goals is through education campaigns, through law and policy, through harm reduction services, community building, and economic empowerment. We're working on this in a few different ways right now that you guys can currently get involved with. But before we get to how you can currently get involved, I'm going to let Franny take it over about giving you a little bit of background about their shop. I know you gave an intro before, but if there's anything you want to add.
Yeah, so basically we soft opened December 2019, and I say we in the general sense. I only came on in June 2021, but in that time it has been a real ride, not just as a small business in a global pandemic, as you can imagine, but also in the cannabis space, specifically in a place like Athens, which has a thriving cannabis culture. It's just a lot of people still have that stigma that they don't talk about it. But there is a culture here, and we're just grateful to have found our people. We keep reaching out and trying to find more people to bring into our family, because we benefit every day from this plant medicine, which is what it is. It's a plant. We have a whole system in our body designed for it called the endocannabinoid system. Every vertebrate has it. And I think, I don't know what you believe in, but for me, that's divinity. That's the universe saying that it's a lock and a key mechanism. You have this system, use this plant for it. And it's helped me in my personal life, I know. Would you like to add anything?
I mean, to touch on what Aaron said, you know, to deny someone access to their own body, like under the guise of public protection, right? Like there's a song by a man named Sturgill Simpson called Turtles All the Way Down. And the song references a Native American legend. But in the song, he says, how do you make illegal something that we all make in our brains, right? And what he's talking about there is, and you know, when we were going to school, all of us, everybody in this room, and this is something that hopefully we can change. I know we're here to talk about law, not curriculum. But when we talk about biology, in the 90s, these three scientists in California researching the medicinal uses and efficacy of cannabis discovered an endocannabinoid system in our body. And later during our slide presentation, I'll show you what that means. But basically it breaks down like this. Inside of our bodies, we make what are called endocannabinoids. You know, endo meaning produced in here, right? And so one of these particular compounds is called anandamide. Anandamide just happens to be the mirror image of THC. THC is a phytocannabinoid that's psychoactive, right? It's the one that they want to protect us all from, right? So anandamide triggers our bodies to release serotonin and melatonin. Everybody loves it when the tonin sisters are present, right? Because you can sleep and you can feel happy. You can kind of just be normal, get through your day. Norepinephrine is really important too. So is L-lysine. And there are other amino acids and peptides and hormones that our body produces when anandamide is present. And it's important to note that no one has ever achieved an orgasm during a fist fight. And I bring that up because you can't have equal parts fight and flight and get down and boogie or Netflix and shit. You just can't do it, right? And when adrenaline and cortisol are present and we're stressed out, our bodies can't heal. So those two stress hormones can't be in abundance and also, you know, all those happiness or calm hormones that I mentioned or compounds that I mentioned. So when you get rid of the body stress, right, then you don't get that precipitory effect where your adrenaline and cortisol evaporate up into your self-talk, right? And then that rains back down into your body, raising that adrenaline and cortisol level. And you get caught in this cycle of depression, anxiety. I mean, you guys are in law school, for crying out loud, some of you. I can't imagine the amount of pressure that some of you must feel, right? And when you consider that everything that you need, literally, to mitigate that without the need for destructive pharmaceutical drugs that you don't know what it is, right? Like if I took a Tylenol and I crushed it, and I took any other white pill and I crushed it, and I asked you which one is going to give you relief from your headache and which one is an anxiety medicine, or which one of them is poison, you couldn't identify it, right? Inside of your body does a lot of this identification for you, right? And at birth, we were hardwired with a system to mitigate that precipitation of physical stress into the intellectual realm. And by denying people access to it, you create a lot of things. You create dependency on pharmaceuticals, you create dependency on all different sorts of therapy, you create dependency on entertainment, you start getting dopamine from anywhere that you can get it, you know, and that's a byproduct of just living without having a war waged on you for the way that you choose to deal with it. So when we add phytocannabinoids to our body, our endocannabinoids are produced, right? There's so much anecdotal evidence that supports everything that I just said. But there's always this space that people speak about it as though that 10,000 years of anecdotal evidence is not scientific. But in the last 30 years, we've proven that it is scientific. And when you make these things illegal and you deny people access to their own bodies, at that point, we've really crossed over the threshold of what government is intended to do in the first place, haven't we? Like, so that's just something I would.
Well, and you mentioned 10,000 years of anecdotal evidence. We hear anecdotal evidence every day in our store where people come in, and I've seen transformations. I've seen people come in and they were dragged in there by their family member who was like, Mom, you need this, like, please come with me. And mom finally comes in and she is just in her shell like a turtle and doesn't really ask questions, doesn't really speak, reluctantly gets something that we recommend for sleep. And then the next time she comes back, she goes, hey, I want 2 bags of that, 1 bag of that. I hope you're having a great day. I know I am, because I had a great night's sleep. And I think that's really remarkable. And that's why laws and these stigmas really confuse me, honestly. And I think it just needs to change.
100%. So just to move this, thank you for those stories, guys. Just to move this to one of the things we want to talk about today. Gotta love when technology doesn't come through for you. A few different ways that we want to work together to be able to facilitate this change that we want to bring about. SSDP is hosting an event this Friday that I'm sure you're tired of me reminding you about. Would definitely love for you to come through though. It's called Hemp Fest. It's been a tradition in the past when we were active before COVID and before our group kind of dissolved because the world was on fire. We would definitely love for you to come. Shout out to Commissioner Jesse Gould that's slept in the back there. They're going to be performing. I'm going to be DJing as well. My friend Hunter, who's the Georgia State chapter leader of SSDP, is going to be there performing. We also have a guy that goes by the name of Kimball Crane. He's a guitarist that will be performing as well. We'll have some local Athens visual artists performing live there. We'll have some law school organizations, Outlaw, BOLSA, ACS that are coming through to represent. A local tenant attorney, if you guys need any housing help or are just interested in going into tenant law, will be there to speak to us. She has her own law firm practice here in Athens, so great job opportunity. We will also be having a representative from Mushi Space hopefully coming through. They're a local music nonprofit that focuses on mental health, suicide awareness, giving people resources to stay mentally healthy so we can all be successful. So definitely hope you can come through just to enjoy some fun, unwind a little bit before finals come around. And yeah, just party with us and get to know us. Aside from that, we're working on a couple of different policy campaigns. One with Commissioner Hill on the back. We're currently working on decriminalizing cannabis here in Athens. It's on the table right now. It's being heard in front of the Legislative Review Committee. Unfortunately, it's not open to public comment yet, but that's like literally the final hour when we can even inform this bill at all. What we can do right now as law students, who some of us are only 1Ls, but we know how to do legal research. We know how to do legal writing. Use those persuasive writing skills. I would love for you guys to work with me in shaping some policy. Yes, Jesse, go ahead.
Those meetings are open to public attendance. In the last meeting, our chair did open it up to public comment.
Nice.
So actually,
Thank you for
come.
Yes.
And for real, I think we need public comment.
So the next meeting will definitely be open for public comment. Because I called City Hall and I tried to get the lowdown on that, and she told me I had to wait till the agenda was published. It was up to the LRC chair whether he would allow public comment.
That is exactly the case. So
Gotcha.
I can't tell you what he's going to decide next month, but he did decide to open it up this month. And so hopefully.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I was also told by City Hall, though, that the agenda for that meeting should be posted a week in advance, and it should indicate on there, right, that it would be open for public comment if anyone wants to check that out and show up.
100%. Another way we're getting involved with commissioners, Jesse and I have been working one-on-one on doing some policy research and actually shaping what this ordinance in Athens could look like. And I want everyone's input. Ultimately, I don't know everything. It's going to take a team of us to figure out like what works best for Athens and what's really going to be convincing and persuasive to the committee members who don't want to push it through, quite frankly, because it's not a popular item on their list of priorities right now. What we can do, aside from showing up to the meeting and speaking publicly, if that's not your thing, all the commissioners' emails are on their website. They have their email addresses, their phone numbers. You can literally schedule a meeting with them. I met with Mariah Parker the other week, another awesome person. Some might be more friendly and receptive to us than others, but ultimately, if we have the same kind of communal message that we're sharing together, if we form those points, we can email it over to them. We can leave them a voicemail. We can schedule meetings and let them know what we as the constituents of Athens want to do here locally. So that's on the public policy facing side as far as like how drugs will be criminalized in Athens, specifically cannabis right now. Mariah Parker is actually the head of the Government Operations Committee with the Athens Clark County Commissioners. So basically what that looks like is they decide on all the policy that dictates how the government functions. And right now they really want to push through diverting funds that currently go to things like policing drugs or that go to civil asset forfeiture, excuse me, that Robin mentioned earlier, diverting those funds that make them a lot of money, right, to going to harm reduction services, helping people get addiction treatment, helping people get the education they need, helping people get drug testing kits, like whatever that looks like to keep people safe. That's another avenue. And ultimately what that looks like is up to us as well. Aside from increasing harm reduction services, we also want to increase education in the area. The government can be pushing out this stuff too. It shouldn't be all up to us, but we have to let them know that we want them to do that. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say this, when the money that we're talking about diverting, this is not a little bit of money, this is not a small amount of money, this is not a few $1,000s, this is tens of thousands of dollars per person that is absolutely ruining the general public's life, but it can be used to completely dismantle and change like a whole new like suite of resources. So there is enough money to make like a government funded harm reduction program that's fully funded. And this can, like, we can flip this 180 degrees around if we want. Like, this is not a small amount of money we're diverting. This is hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, you know, this money once.
Yeah, come on.
This is like the primary source of profit. This is why we keep incarcerating people for drugs, because it's so profitable. It's tens of thousands of dollars per person. So again, this is not small. This is dire. You know, we can change the entirety of how government works. Oh, awesome.
Hey y'all, we're gonna go and take a pause so you can grab some pizza. So again, our diet restricted folks that can't eat gluten, can't eat cheese, please feel free to grab a salad. Everybody else, we have cheese and pepperoni pizza for you. Those of you who are RSVP late, if you can just hang back for a bit, just to make sure everybody else gets pizza. Thanks for
Yeah.
Yes.
She is my stepmom. She's wonderful. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Because I told him.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of really good things about it.
Okay. No.
Here's your tablet. Yeah, I was surprised when they ended up publishing and there was it's the first time
Yeah.
in years that a committee meeting has had it. So my hope is that Russell will do it again next month, but ultimately it's like his unilateral decision. So
I pointed out to Sarah George that the agenda for that meeting was published after the meeting. So I'm hoping this time it's published before that, so we have time to prep.
I know that Beacon's gonna go. I mean, we've only got 2 things in that committee, and they both got it. And this last meeting, I don't know if you get a chance to.
Yeah.
ridiculous. So, but tabling for basically no reason without discussion means it's definitely gonna be done.
Well, I mean, those gas powered leaf blowers, those are a real pandemic of their own, are they not?
Yeah. We talked about that with great passion.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's funny, the only reason I was able to have this is Carol is late. So there's 3 of us who want to move forward. And there's 2 that are stalling. And one stalled 5 of us. I don't think we're going to or gonna do, like, how much time. Try to slow it down, stall it out, this is just be like, well, no, don't do this. You know what I mean?
I hope that you won't mind, but when we get to our presentation, we've taken screenshots from the LRC meeting a couple months
The
ago.
March 3rd one with the pros and cons list. We love those pros and cons lists.
Oh, okay.
Not so much the cons, but the pros was interesting.
They're,
So
it's
I misread things.
pineapple
I think in
and
part because I was expecting everyone to be present for the meeting, or when the 2 people who opposed it are also not here to attend all the meetings. So I thought like we were moving forward fairly smoothly, and what was I wrong? So I think I would have been more heavily encouraging everyone to advocate for marijuana. So now I'm just like advocating like bother like flood our inboxes.
right,
And even if there's no public comment, you can still be in the room. So like fill the room.
right. Yeah.
Well, and I hope my email, I don't feel like it was received in the best way, because I got a couple of emails back, but it was like, Allison Wright, Lita, Thornton, Carol Myers, all thanks me for being a resource, and they would definitely reach out to me again and radio silence. So yeah, I'm hoping to be there next time. I'm hoping it opens up to public comment. And I'll definitely be at this thing, Hemp Fest. I had no idea you played music, so I'm super excited about that.
That's like more of what I did all the time before I was.
That's
That's
awesome.
amazing. That's so good. You're from Athens, right?
Not originally.
Not originally.
I mean, I've lived here 15 years now, but
Okay.
I moved here from Massachusetts.
Oh, okay, wow. Well, we're proud to have you, by the way. Like, your
You
name
don't
comes
have to
up in
spend
a
your
lot
time
of.
beefing me up, right?
No, but your name comes up a lot in very positive ways in the circles of people that I travel with. And it's, my Keisha Ross and I are like brother and sister. So your name comes up a lot. And I just want to say thank you. Like I feel like you represent our collective voice, better than any of the other people.
Thank you.
I'm very excited that you guys.
Do you want something?
I'm kind of a chapter
Yeah, you want.
I'm a little bit like messed up with like the legal system, so I'm not as involved as like I want to be. I just actually missed my speech on how like my life has been personally affected by it.
Oh, I was like, when you did that pose, I was like, let's go. Sorry.
Absolutely. Can we all get something out? Cool.
Oh, I'm green.
I wanted the people inviting.
I know that green was
It's a little intense. It's a little intense. You guys are like, if you want to move your chairs.
My life.
Oh, it's okay. As long as I'm seeing it, it's fine.
When you get frustrated, all of your resources, all my debit cards, your credit cards, yeah.
Does everybody get on food? Everyone got some stuff?
Oh, yeah.
The cup looks good.
Might think you're looking at the left.
He's a good dude.
So, and I don't know how much time we'll have today and how much, this being a big event, how much time we'll be able to talk. I think it'd be really good, even if it's nice and we have to, for like us to get kind of board, what's together, we're kind of organize around this for a while.
Absolutely.
Because the debate that's happening in LRC is around some deep in the weeds stuff. That's like the basic arguments of like, you know, weeds not staying for drugs, understood. The basic argument that weeds not staying for crime, understood. The basic argument that war is a failed endeavor, unless you acknowledge the reasons it's sort of designed to do it, does, understood. Certainly understood by the representative. But there's these like things that we're getting hung up on and moving forward on actually decriminalizing.
The implementation of the ordinance is very,
Yeah, and the way like our Solicitor General talks about the diversion aid, they're basically like they're not prosecuting right now because of the circumstances.
It's there as an enhancement, though. It's an enhancement.
This is y'all's show.
But
I would like to talk through like how we best advance those arguments
yeah,
against those parts, because that's what's leaving us stuck in the committee.
absolutely. And let me write down my phone number.
I want you to chime in, no, for sure. All right, y'all, we only have 25 minutes left together, so I'm gonna give the show back on the road.
It's both of our cell phone numbers and business cards. So text us anytime. We're around.
I like that you leave space.
So I do want to say we want this to be an interactive process, like I
Exactly.
look forward to everybody at the end after we've provided some information, but if at any point you have any questions, any comments, any like personal anecdotal experience you want to share, please feel free to like raise your hand and chime in. So basically the two main things we wanted to talk about today, besides giving you an intro to who we are as organizations and freedom fighters, is letting you know where cannabis laws currently at, excuse me. So I don't know if you guys are aware, but 14 other municipalities in Georgia have actually already decriminalized cannabis, meaning that if you possess an ounce or less of the flower form of marijuana, that you are either going to pay a fine. Some municipalities let you do community service or harm reduction courses instead if you're unable to pay the fine. But that's not like consistent throughout each municipality, so definitely double check your local laws. But we just have a quick list of where those places are right now. The most progressive of these municipalities are Chatham County / Savannah. Not only do they have the fine, harm reduction, and community service options, but they also cover drug-related objects in the ordinance. That's really important because right now, everywhere else, you are only not getting in trouble if they find physical leafy weed on you, right? If you have like a bong in your backseat, if you have a grinder, if you have a bubbler, a bowl.
Well, anything used to consume,
Right, they're gonna take you to jail.
that's a felony.
Exactly.
So it doesn't really matter unless you have literally a bag full of like a gram of weed and nothing, like no mechanism to smoke it with, you're going to jail.
Yep. So definitely know your local laws, but basically I brought up that point to say, we're trying to make the most progressive marijuana decriminalization ordinance that there is in Georgia. We want to make sure it includes all those drug-related objects, so you're not getting in trouble because you have a grinder and less than an ounce of marijuana, right? We want to make sure everything's covered as much as possible. A friend of mine actually recently got a state felony for having literally $20 worth of weed on him. It was specifically concentrate, dabs. I don't know if you guys are familiar with those, but just a different form of weed. Just as cheap, just as effective or whatever. But now he has a felony on his record and he's a college student trying to like make his way towards a better life. And that totally derail you, right? So unfortunately, it's a little bit more iffy about if we're able to legislate in that area. But I'm only one person and I've been doing the legal research. So we definitely appreciate your guys' help in figuring out like the legal technicalities of that, because that's how we get caught up, right? In the system of making it complicated to move through all this. But anyways, before I start ranting all day.
Yeah, no, shit, people talk, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a community to decriminalize a drug. So
Exactly.
we need every one of you guys' support and knowledge. Like this is a room full of like the smartest, most progressive people at UGA.
Yeah. And I know decriminalizing cannabis might not seem like a lot to you and maybe might not even seem important. I hope we can like change your mind about that. But ultimately, this is the first step to getting everything legalized. And I know that's kind of like a radical, crazy statement, but people are still going to jail for having like $10 worth of acid on them. That's like a felony. It's literally a felony to have any amount of mushrooms on you, which is quite literally a plant. I mean, you know, it's just kind of insane, right? But anyways, today we're talking about where the law's at with cannabis. So I'm going to turn it over to Franny's for you guys to take it from here.
Yeah, so just real quickly, look at Portugal. They have everything decriminalized. They have been that way for what, 10 years now? I mean, they haven't imploded as a country. So I would say that we have models we can look at to base this off of. It's not as radical as people try to make it seem. But yeah, absolutely. Take over with the 2018 Farm Bill.
Could you pull up the hour thing?
Absolutely.
Use it on your phone and I'll read it.
There you go.
All right. So I try my best not to paraphrase or synopsisize things in my own way when I'm addressing, especially like law school students. But anytime I'm talking about the law is written very specifically, isn't it? And it's written that way for a purpose. It's supposed to be easily interpreted by everyone who reads it. It should explain itself in clear context, but we all are aware that it doesn't, right? For the sake of creating municipal bonds and criminal charges, it doesn't. So I'm going to read to you what the 2018 Farm Bill says, what it defines as hemp, because through the definition of hemp, we derive the definition of marijuana. So in the Farm Bill, it says this act may be cited as the Hemp Farming Act of 2018. So that's the legislative authority for us to have our hemp dispensary here in Georgia. It is not immediately. Why is that? Federally, in 2018, we could have opened it. We had to wait for Georgia to pass an act, right? So here in the Farm Bill, it describes that states and tribal territories have to decide their own regulatory implementations underneath this. So it says that hemp means the plant Cannabis sativa L and any part of that plant, including the seeds thereof and all derivatives, extracts, cannabinoids, isomers, acids, salts, and salts of isomers, whether growing or not, with a delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol concentration of not more than 0.3% on a dry weight basis. So what does that mean? That means, like when we talk about cannabis, we talk about hemp versus marijuana. Most people think the difference is kind of like grapefruits grow on a different tree than oranges, and lemons and limes grow on separate trees. If you can imagine there was one citrus tree, there are over 40 fruits that are citrus fruits, right? But imagine all of them grew on one tree, and the 10th week of the fruiting process, the tree produces oranges. But oranges are the devil's fruit. And if you eat oranges, you're gonna get pregnant in a truck stop bathroom and die of a heroin overdose because oranges are a gateway fruit. That's literally how arbitrary the distinction is between hemp and marijuana. It's all the same plant. When you come into our dispensary, you'll see jars on the shelf. You'll smell them. Oh my God, that's got to be the real stuff, right? It is the real stuff. If we would have let it grow just a few weeks more, we would have had to burn it, along with all the help that we've given our community, along with all the income that we've generated, along with all the positive effects. And the very, 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 very few. And when I say very few, I mean less than 3 complaints in 2 years. Negative side effects of what we're doing here now, right? Like just by accessing the plant, now that we can do it. So in that light, let's talk about the 2019 Georgia Hemp Farming Act. That's where we got our authority to open the hemp dispensary. So under that act, it says, chapter 23, Title 2 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to hemp farming is amended in Code Section 223-3, relating to definition by revising paragraphs 3 through 11 and adding a new paragraph to read as follows. Federally defined THC level for hemp means a delta-9 THC concentration of not more than 0.3% on a dry weight basis. Raiden mentioned, our friend, who was caught with dabs, right, a concentrate. Like, didn't we just hear me read from the law itself? All salts, all concentrates, all isomers of salts, right? Like, why do we need to have this discussion on a municipal basis if this has already been decided? And it's nice to have Commissioner Hool here because we actually took slides from the last Legislative Review Committee meeting. They had on their YouTube, they broadcasted. So this here in Clark County, our LRC created slides discussing the marijuana ordinance. I want to read to you the caption after the word pros. It says, assuming a marijuana ordinance is prosecutable. That's their number one pro for passing a decriminalization act in Athens, is that we have to assume that it's prosecutable in the first place to even be able to take it to court. What does that mean? Well, when we look at the cons, the very first con says the need for an ordinance has diminished because the state can no longer prosecute misdemeanor marijuana charges due to the 2019 Hemp Farming Act. This is true for prosecuting a violation under the state statute or under a municipal ordinance. Our LRC admitted in the very first statement on both the pros and the cons that there's no reason for us to be talking about this, that it's already been decided, it's already been legislated. We need to quit legislating in the courtrooms and leave that under the separation of powers clause with the legislators like it's supposed to be. And that's a very brief, and I hope not too passionate. I hope there's not so much of me in this that you walk away with my personality and not the information that I present. Because it seems on the surface when you walked in here today, what we were looking for is something new. We wanted something new, a completely new idea. We wanted a new law in place, right? That hasn't been established. But now that the veil has been peeled back, the law is already there. What we need are our prosecutors and our local legislators to follow suit with what's already been established. We don't need to create municipal bonds to pay for public services through criminalizing marijuana any longer. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. So now that we kind of have an overview of where we're at legally when it comes to cannabis and why we just need to nip all this in the bud and legalize all of it, Franny's is also going to talk to us a little bit about the different distinctions between the currently legal cannabis products. As Pocket was so great to mention, only part of the plant is being criminalized right now. And so for the legal parts that are like the early germination, fruiting parts of the cannabis plant, you can buy that over the counter and it looks, smells, feels, tastes just like good old weed. So they're going to talk to you about the medicinal benefits of it and why you might be interested in using it for your own purposes and de-stressing and just living a better life.
So I will take it. Everything in the cell is hemp legally.
As Pocket mentioned, it has less than 0.3% Delta 9 THC. When we grow cannabis, the plant creates cannabinoids, and as it gets older, the first cannabinoid created is CBG, which is a pretty awesome cannabinoid all on its own. But then after that, it starts producing CBD, CBN. God, there's so many. And then in the later stages is when it starts producing THC. And as he mentioned, we have to pull it before it gets too much of that in there. Otherwise, we can't sell it's then marijuana. It has over that 0.3% amount. It's the same plant as it was 2 weeks ago, just a little bit more Delta-9 THC, and we can no longer sell it to you because marijuana is illegal and Delta-9 THC is, as mentioned, the devil. So yeah, you walk into our shop, people are most times surprised to see our bud bar, which is a beautiful display on a shelf right behind our counter. It has multiple jars of bud in there. It's flower, it's cannabis. We've had defense attorneys come in, we've had cops come in, we've had so many people come in and say, you know, just shoot me straight. This is illegal. Like, how are you selling this? And they act like it's a big secret between us behind the counter and them out there, and it's not. It's it should be common knowledge that it's a legal, arbitrary distinction between hemp and marijuana. They are the same plant, and you can benefit whether it is hemp or whether it is marijuana. There are benefits to both. Even I mean, there's medicinal benefits that we could go on for days about with helping with sleep. CBN is a great cannabinoid for sleep. CBG is known for being anti-inflammatory. CBD has its hands in a little bit of everything with stress relief and pain relief and a lot of great things. And then you get to THC, which people go, oh, well, you know, that's just for stoners. Like, you just want to get high. And that's not always the case. And even when that is the case, I mean, do you ever go home and have a glass of wine at the end of a really rough day? Do you ever, I don't know, just be a couch potato and just vibe for a little while? I mean, that's basically what it is. It's self-care, it's mental health, even if it is recreational. So yeah, that's what we're all about. We carry a variety of products in terms of intake methods. We carry tinctures, the flower, as we mentioned, that's in the loose flower or pre-rolls. You can buy it by the gram. We sell paraphernalia in the shop in the form of bubblers and Sherlock pipes and bat pipes. We have concentrates that you can get arrested for because cops can't tell the difference between. Yeah, I mean, I could show you our Delta 8 cartridge that is 100% illegal or 100% legal, hemp derived, and then show you a marijuana cart from Colorado, and you would not be able to tell the difference if it didn't have packaging on it.
Keep your receipt for
Right.
what you buy, because cops
Yeah,
don't give a shit and they'll arrest you and put you in a holding cell while they're testing it and making sure. But you know, while they're making sure, you know, that's a day of your life that you'll never get back. If you had homework, if you have a pet at home. I was so worried about my cat when I got incarcerated because my cat didn't know where I was, and my cat would have died if, you know, I didn't get out.
that's
the receipts. the
yes,
packaging, you know.
we always recommend keeping the receipt, and we typically have bags that have QR codes that you can scan if you get pulled over. God forbid that happens. But yeah, I mean, there's just, I don't know how else to say it. You cannot tell the difference between this.
Yeah, no, it's the same thing. It's the same plant. It's really, I mean, besides the fact that some of the illegal ones might have like a triangle with an exclamation point that says THC on it, and these might not. When I got arrested, when I actually got my car back from being impounded at the Oconee County Sheriff's impound lot, they left some of the Franny's weed that I had in my car, because I love everything that Franny's has to offer. It really, really helps me with my arthritis, my CPTSD, with my nightmares, my sleeping. It helps with everything. But I think it's funny that they also left some illegal weed in my car because they didn't really care about the drugs. They just wanted my money. But they did the things that were labeled in the bags. They left in my car and they just gave it right back to me.
Well, and I think they mentioned in one LRC meeting when they were presenting data that they requested ACC staff to go and get. And I believe they said that there were 6 cases that were dismissed by the district attorney's office since the 2019 Georgia Hemp Farming Act. that were about marijuana, and they were dismissed, right? But, yeah, I mean, exactly like you said, did you lose your job while you were sitting in jail
Yeah.
waiting on them to get it
Yeah,
together?
I lost my job.
Did
yeah.
you, have to use your rent money to pay, your bond
So
or
my
a lawyer?
bond
or-
was $20,000. I lost my job. They took my debit card. They took my credit card. They took all my cash. They took my car keys, my keys to my house. I was terrified that they would, pay me to visit because I had the keys to my house. Like, what do all y'all need when y'all leave the house? Phone, wallet, keys. They took my phone, my wallet, and my keys. I couldn't get into school because UGA ELC's two-factor authentication brings your phone number. I can't buy another phone because my phone number, the authentication now in 2022, everything, calls your phone to make sure that you're not a scammer trying to get in or a hacker. It really, really immobilizes you. So the only thing that you have left to do is, get your money under the table, go back into the system, and I'm just gonna, come out and say they like that because when you get sucked into the system of incarceration or in and out of jail, you pay them a lot of money. They get really, really rich off of draining you of everything that you have.
It's super frustrating. I know we're almost out of time, guys, so I just wanted to open up the floor really quick. If you have any ideas of what you'd like to see in local policy, what you want us to lobby for, please go ahead and speak up. But we have a QR code for how you can sign up for our petition and also join SSDP here on the last slide. So thank you for coming. I know you have class and stuff, but any comments, please share. Also, we have sources that are going to be in our Google Drive if you want to look at any of these laws, analyze them yourself, better understand them. Please feel free to share your thoughts though.
Thank you guys so much for coming.
Hey guys, I just wanted to get your attention real quick. Since you guys are law students, some of you, hopefully, most of you will be defense attorneys. I'm sure we might have a couple of prosecutors in here, but I just wanted to put y'all in perspective. There's 40,000 marijuana arrests in Georgia last year. And when you break down the racial disparities, an African American is 4 times more likely to be arrested for cannabis. Georgia has the largest criminal justice system. We have over 500,000 people on probation. The private probation system is driving the criminal justice system here. So I encourage you guys to look at these drug laws, look at things, change them. We take people like you, we turn them into effective grassroots lobbyists. We're a lobbying firm. If you guys are interested in working on some federal policies, state policies, we're actually in the process of trying to get a legalization bill drafted for Georgia. So we would love to have the extra help. I know Raiden, Robin, and the rest of the crew have been putting in a lot of work. Just wanted to say real quick, please sign up if you're interested in helping us with some policy issues. But thank you very much for your time, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for coming, y'all. Have a great day.
Even if you don't have, just hearing your name, just